Hello and welcome to another Unity programming tutorial. In this tutorial we will going to be learning how you can build checkboxes that you can check from, and that will allow you to add items or to your cart, and then in the next step you can actually take that towards purchasing. So basically the application that I'm building over here allows you to do the following. It gives you a couple of items to choose from. If you, let's say, check on sword, it says this is going to cost you $10. If you add shield, automatically it goes up to 25. If you take away sword, it drops down to 15. If you add sword back in but take away shield, it drops down to 10. So it basically allows you to do all of these things. The next step could be to take it to the next scene where you can complete the transaction. So we are only building this scene today. So in order for us to do this example, let's start a new project. I was going to call this one Shopping Level 1. And I'm going to be creating this Unity project. Now when this Unity project gets created, the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding a panel to it, and on the panel we're going to be adding the components, we're going to be naming them, and we're going to be doing the whole 9 yards about building this environment. So in order for me to get started, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go under Game Object, I'm going to be going under User Interface, and I will going to add the panel. Now, as always, panel starts out like this. You go to Canvas, and when you're in Canvas, you go to Inspector, and then you need to change your rendering of screen space to that of a camera. And then you come back to panel, and now panel just works great. You know, I mean, you can zoom in, you can use the Alt, and you can rotate on axis, however you want to do it. So once you're done placing it, now for me to get started with this example, I will going to start with a user interface called text, which I'm going to place right here at the top. Then I need another text, so I can simply copy and paste this, and I'm going to push that one down below here. And then I need to bring in my toggles, so I'm going to go under User Interface, and I'm going to add my toggle. So here is my first toggle, and I will going to now copy and paste this, and this will going to allow me to add another toggle. So here are my 2 toggles. So as you can see, I have 1 text, 2 toggles, and another text down below. So now, if I would like to make changes to their names, so I click on the very first one. As you can see, I can zoom in, zoom out. I can use mouse wheel to move things around on the canvas. Okay. So I'm currently on my first text, which is right at the top. I can certainly change its name. I would like to call this one heading. And the text that I would like to put in here is called cart. And I can change the font size. So all of that stuff can be done. I can change the text color. So all of those things can be applied right here, there, and then. Then I can click on the second text, which is right down below. And to start, I would like to put in a dollar and a hyphen. Again, this will going to be of a larger font size. And I would now like to change its name from that to amount. Now let me go to my first toggle. If you expand on toggle, toggle has a property called label. That's where it keeps the text. So I will going to go under the text property, and I will going to change it to sword 10. So that's what my toggle is. And then I'm going to be changing its name to sword. Let me zoom out so that you can see here, this is the sword, and this is where I have changed it to a $10. And then I will going to click on my second toggle. I'm going to change its label to shield. $15. I will going to change its name to Shield. So once I've done my basic setup over here in my hierarchy, you can see that I'm done with my basic setup. I can certainly add a script. But before I add a script, I would like to once again show you the entire panel that I have. So this is basically how my whole panel. And if I show you in the run mode, right now they're both checked, but I can certainly uncheck them. If I want to start out my toggle as unchecked, then I can simply click on each one of the toggle, and they each have a property. If I go under the inspector, it's on. I can uncheck the is on, and I can do that for Shield as well. So if I now go in the game view and I start the game, you will notice that they both come out as unchecked. And I can certainly check them during the runtime. Now I'm going to start adding a script to this example. So I'm going to go under Assets, Create, C# script. I can call this Process Cart and I can double click to start it in Visual Studio. Now in the Visual Studio, I will going to be incorporating a Unity engine .ui. This would allow me to create objects of different type which are related to UI. So I can now declare object of type toggle. One of the objects that I want to create is sword. The other object I want to create is shield. And then I will going to tie these objects to my UI in my Unity. So in the script, I'm just creating those objects. And I have to make sure that I create them as public, otherwise they won't be available in the Unity environment, just like we have done it before. Second of all, I want to have a text object created. This will allow me to change the value in my response, where my actual amount needs to go. And then I can also declare private variables, which is the value holder for the amount that's getting purchased. To each one of my toggle, I will going to add an on value changed event. That means when the value on the toggle gets changed, I want to add an add listener, which we're going to call a function called change now, which is a user-defined function which I still need to code. So I've just copy-pasted the code, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on my shield. So on value change, shield or sword, they should call a function called change now. So you bring your mouse over change now, you go under show potential fixes, and the very first one, which will generate a method for you, you click on that. You get rid of this throw line. We don't need it, as we're not throwing any exceptions. Now we make some checks here using a simple if condition that if sword dot is on, that means if the sword is on, and shield dot is on, and shield is also on, then we would like to set the amount to a value of 25. Else if only sword is on, then we want to set the amount to only 10. And if shield is the only one that's on, then we want to set it to just 15. After we set the amount, we want to change the text on the answer to hold the amount to pay, and then we will going to concatenate it with convert dot to string the amount. So this pretty much takes care of my scripting logic. Now I switch over to Unity, where I will going to attach this script to my objects so that I can run it. One last thing that I did before I switch over to Unity, since it was a very long text, I reduced the size of it to just a $sign and a space. So now I will going to drag and drop my script on the panel. So the panel automatically is now attached to the script and gives me access to the 3 objects that are declared as public in my script. So I go under the sword object in my script and attach it to the sword on the panel. I go to the shield, attach it to the shield on the panel, and go to the answer and attach it to the amount on the panel. So now they're all attached from the code behind the scene to the items on the canvas. So now when I run this program, if I click on sword, you can see that it shows $10. If I click on shield, it shows $25. One more thing. So in order to fix this problem, I will going to initialize my amount to a value of 0, that every time change now is called, amount will going to start with 0. If any of these if conditions are fulfilled, the amount will change, otherwise amount will going to stay 0. So now when we test our program, we will now be able to run it, and we click on sword, it changes to 10. If we click on shield, it changes to 25, uncheck shield, back to 10, uncheck sword, back to 0. So that pretty much allows you to be able to check certain items and be able to change the value of an object. So in this tutorial, we have covered only this much. And in the next tutorials, we're going to take this example and move it further, or some of the other examples. Like I'm going to do an example with you with toggle group, where you can select one of the many choices. And we're going to do an example where you can bring in data from a file, from a text file. You should be able to change the images in the image placeholder on the fly. Those kind of cool stuff we're going to do in the next example. Till then, have a great day. Thank you very much for watching.